Hello, my name is Derek Turner. Today I'm going to talk about this book, Frank Swinnerton's The Bookman's London, first published in 1951. Frank Swinnerton was born in 1884 and died in 1982. He devoted most of his 98 years to the publishing industry, starting off at the age of 14 as a delivery boy. Later in his career, he became a copy editor, editing, for example, Huxley and Strachey. He knew H.G. Wells and John Galsworthy and Arnold Bennett. He heard Shaw speak and Belloc and remembered seeing the enormously fat Chesterton getting out of a hansom cab, Chesterton being so fat that the whole cab creaked and groaned as he alighted. It was a strangely intimate kind of a London. He remembers hearing cattle being driven along the Farringdon Road outside his boyhood home every weekday morning on the way down to Smithfield Market. He remembers horse-drawn omnibuses and the newsboys calling about the relief of Mafeking, the Dreyfus affair, the death of the Queen. He remembers many gentlemen in the streets of London who seemingly had very little to do but to stand around wearing their boater hats and little moustaches, looking, he said, like the newspaper photographs of Dr. Crippen. The London that he talked about mostly was the area around Paternoster Row and St Paul's Churchyard, which had been the epicentre of literary London, since Elizabethan times. For example, Blunt, Shakespeare's publisher, was based at the sign of the Black Bear in St Paul's Churchyard. Chaucer was from London, and Spenser. William Langland set some of the best scenes of Piers Plowman in London. And of course, later, it was the home to countless other literary lions, world-famous literary lions. We hear about Ben Jonson and Thomas Dekker, John Donne, Daniel Defoe, Joseph Addison, John Gay, Jonathan Swift, Sam Johnson, Horace Walpole, William Blake, William Hazlitt, Charles Lamb, Charles Dickens, Thomas Carlyle. We hear about their appearances, their addresses, the houses they lived in, their relationships with other writers, the way they responded to this often dirty and sometimes even dangerous but always stimulating city in which they found themselves. We hear about the first magazines and newspapers, about the first literary and gentlemen's clubs, and the first coffee houses like the legendary Will's, where Dryden would hold forth, quote, as a master among lesser men, although none of what Dryden said on those apparently memorable occasions was ever recorded. We hear about the first circulating libraries, about the orators, the caricaturists, the artists, the hawkers, the pamphleteers, the crooks, and the so-called mushroom publishers who would spring up and disappear overnight. We hear about the sad bibliomaniacs who would hover around the bookstalls trying to find treasures. We hear about the likes of Houghton, the publisher of Swinburne, who also published Ambrose Bierce. Bierce was so annoyed by constant excuses and by having cheques for payment bounced on him that one Sunday he went up to Houghton's house, barged through the front door past the protesting maid, ran upstairs shouting insults and burst into Houghton's bedroom at the top of the stairs, only to find the publisher lying dead. We hear about the radical journalist William Godwin, who was the father, of course, of Mary Shelley. He was sitting enjoying the sun one afternoon on his balcony in Chalk Farm when he was accosted from street level by what Swinnerton calls a virago in green spectacles. "Is it possible," she said, "that I behold the immortal Godwin?" It doesn't sound entirely surprising that she became the second Mrs. Godwin. We also hear the story of the two painters Haydon and Fuseli, who one sunny day sat in Hampstead Heath looking down over the great smokes and steams of the city down below. Fuseli said, "By God, it looks like the Israelites making bricks." The patriotic Haydon responded, "No, it looks like the smokes of people who make the Egyptians make bricks for them." "Well done, John Bull," responded Fuseli with a smile. And I'd say well done to Frank Swinnerton for this fantastic book.